Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dylan Gonzalez. I am a senior critic for Geek Vibes Nation and also a co host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. As always, we have a lot of great titles, but I'm going to kick it off to you, Dylan, to start us off.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I know it's been a couple weeks since we last had a giveaway, but I have one that I'm very excited about. And there's multiple opportunities to win this because I have 3 copies of this. It is the upcoming release of Yellow Brick Road from Lightyear Entertainment. It's a 10th anniversary Blu-ray edition, and it is like a updated special edition, which I think they went up. This is like a low budget horror film. And I think they went in and kind of just like spruced up some of the special effects, like from what I was understanding from the press release. I've never seen the original version. I have seen this new Blu-ray, and I quite enjoyed the movie. And I know I'm pretty sure you'll be covering it on a future episode, so I won't go deep into it. But it has some like kind of interesting connections to The Wizard of Oz, obviously, and the disappearance of people, and it gets kind of creepy and mind-bendy, and it's a fun movie. So yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just going to say that's very exciting. And also, I was thinking about trying to have Andy on the show sometime, or at least just interview him to talk about like what those differences are, how much of a George Lucas he pulled with his special edition. So
yeah, any original fans of this film, don't be too upset. I think having this with like a new 2K master and everything will probably like kind of soothe some any minor wounds. But yeah, this is a fun film. We have 3 copies of the Blu-ray from Lightyear Entertainment to give away. So if you want to win that, just leave a comment here with what release from this episode you're most excited to check out. That's all you got to do. Just let us know, and you could win one of 3 copies of Yellow Brick Road on Blu-ray. And see how creepy it looks. Yes,
that is awesome. I would sing the Elton John song Yellow Brick Road, but I don't want it to get flagged. It would be that good.
Yes,
they would be like, wow, take it down.
We don't need that kind of heat on us. Ooh, perfect transition. My first title is the new 20th Century Studios and Disney release of the 4K of Heat, because we don't need that heat on us. So yes, the Michael Mann classic Heat, which is probably one of my all-time favorite crime movies. It is incredible. You have the great Robert De Niro and Al Pacino facing off against one another, criminals on both, or like people on opposing sides. You have the master criminal, Robert De Niro, and the officer who wants to keep him from continuing his crime spree of like robbing banks and like armored cars and everything. And you also have Val Kilmer back here sporting some interesting looking hair throughout the movie. I wish he would cut his ponytail a lot of times, but hey, what are you gonna do? So this is a 3-disc release. You have the 4K disc here and 2 Blu-ray discs. They're stacked on this side, which is not my favorite, but there's one for like the bonus disc and the remastered Blu-ray. Well, it was remastered in 2017, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into. So yeah, this release, I love it. I think a lot of people who do not have like the optimal viewing environment will probably kind of have issues with this disc, and that's because it is a very dark disc. This was remastered in 2017 by Michael Mann, and he kind of gave like slightly different color grading to certain portions of the movie, and it overall is just kind of like a darker experience. I've been seeing this controversy brewing online for like the past few months of people not liking like the old iTunes 4K stream. This comes from that same master, but it is handled a lot better. Like the nuances are better with like the black levels and everything. Like they're more stable, and there's like less compression, and there is more fine detail in kind of like those darker environments. I think especially if you watch this at like night, you're not really going to have any issues with like seeing stuff. If you watch it like with like bay windows with sun coming into the room and everything, might not be the best environment to watch heat in like the middle of a like a weekend afternoon. That's what I'll say. But overall, I do really like how this movie looks. I think kind of like the overall kind of moody, darker look, it really works well for this film. I've seen some people being concerned that like it might turn like the skies more like a cloudy yellow. I did not really see that. I think it was kind of more like not desaturated necessarily, but kind of just like a starker kind of like bluish gray sky. And I think I do really like how this film looks. And the DTS 5.1 soundtrack, not a Dolby Atmos, it's just a kick-ass DTS 5.1 that was on the previous release, still will kick you in the chest whenever like the crazy bank robbery that happens about 2/3 through the movie happens. Like every single shot that comes out is like radiating out to you, and it's quite an experience. And they do not neuter it with this like new release. It sounds great in 4K. So as far as like special features are concerned, it's also pretty well packed. Both the 4K and the remastered Blu-ray disc comes with the Michael Mann commentary. That is the only special feature on the 4K disc, which is good because this is a nearly 3-hour movie and you don't want that extra space taken up by special features. But you do have the disc completely dedicated to special features, including 2 really great panels that were done in recent years, I believe in 2017. There is a panel that is 63 minutes with Michael Mann and I believe it's Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and I think that's all, discussing the movie. And then you have another conversation that's 30 minutes with Michael Mann that was like hosted at a screening that you get in full. You also have a hour-long making of the movie and a couple other like minor featurettes, but that's already like several hours worth of content, not even including the audio commentary. So this release is pretty stacked, and I have been waiting to upgrade this for a long time. Nice. And this did not disappoint me. So this is a classic. I love this movie. Like I said, it is, if you're sensitive to like darker grading on movies, this might not be for you. But I think if you have like a properly calibrated set and you're like not watching it in like blinding daytime, I think you'll be fine. So I highly recommend Heat on 4K.
Nice. So what you're saying is they really turned up the heat on this release.
Absolutely.
No, that sounds awesome. I really am excited that Disney is doing the Fox titles. Like I know they earlier this year they did Speed. Was Speed there for their first Fox 4K title? Do you know?
I'm not sure. That came out like April of last year, and I think that might have been, but I really love that disc as well. Yeah. I just want them to continue doing that because there's a lot of great Fox titles just begging to be put on 4K.
And I also like how they seem to be playing ball with like Criterion. There was a couple Fox titles that they did for them, which like one was like Nightmare Alley, which is amazing. But anyways, I don't know a good transition. So my next title is Battle of the Worlds, and this is from the Film Detective. And so let me show you the. Now inside, there is a really cool booklet. I'll take out and show you. Really nice new essay and photo reproductions are really good in this as well. Yeah, so this was a movie that a lot of people kind of like crap on, but I think it's kind of a fun movie. Like I know like I whenever I watched it and rated it on Letterboxd, a couple of my Letterboxd people like rated it pretty low. And it does kind of have that really broken down cheesy kind of look. Like this was I mean this was clearly like pre Star Wars when like sci-fi films really evolved. But having said that, that's kind of what I love about it. It kind of has that really charming, cheesy DIY feel. This is a Italian produced sci-fi film with mainly American actors. Most notably, Claude Rains is in this.
Oh, cool.
And oh my gosh, he is amazing. As always, like he plays this really super sassy, catty scientist, and you can just tell he's having a blast hamming it up here. Um, Overall, this is a pretty interesting and um, it's an interesting movie and it has a nice kind of pulpy flavor. Like it very much leans into like it's sort of like it's like it feels almost like a comic book movie, like minus maybe like the superheroes. And it was funny because there are some really clever meta jokes which I was not expecting, which I definitely appreciated. So one thing I wanted to mention, and so I heard some rumblings about like why so there is a longer Italian version of this, like the Italian cut of the film. And this is like the recut American version. This does not have that longer Italian cut, just to let everybody know. Here again is the special features. Um, but I reached out to my friend David Delval, who I've had on the show before, and he's really nice and a big fan of the channel. So I asked him what was going on with that. Like had that Italian cut ever even been on home video before? And the short answer is no. It's never been officially released. So if you're like if you're a diehard fan of this movie and you're kind of wondering about that, that's what's going on with that. It's just the US cut. Having said that, it looks fantastic. It looks really great. So this is a 4K scan of the original 35 millimeter print. And does it look flawless? No. I mean, you can kind of tell that it's an older movie that maybe wasn't taken care of. So the colors maybe look a little faded at times. There's a little bit of artifacts. But overall, it looks crisp and clean. It definitely looks like it's much improved. Like I've never seen this in any other format, but just by looking at it, you can kind of tell that it looks pretty sharp, even if it's not completely flawless. So the commentary is really great. There's also a really nice featurette. And I mean, they always do a fantastic job with these on like Film Detective. They don't just slap the movie on there, they give you some nice bonus features, which I think provides a lot of really good context. Like this, so I ended up watching this twice, once by itself and then once with the commentary track. And it's funny because I kind of appreciate it a little bit more with that added context. So yeah, it's a stellar release. I'm a big fan of like 50s and 60s sci-fi. So if you are also, this is a great disc to have, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I really want to get more into film detective releases because every time you talk about one, I was like, ooh, that's going on the list. That's going on the list. So that looks really, really fun. So even I love, like I said, I love cheesy sci-fi as well. So I'm right there with you.
Nice.
My next title is a classic series from Kino Classics that I was so thrilled whenever they started releasing these last year, and I'm glad they're continuing. That is season 2 of Rod Serling's Night Gallery, which boosts the episode count this time. I believe the first season, I believe it was 2 discs and 6 episodes and a pilot, if I'm not mistaken. And this second season bumps it up to 22 episodes on 5 discs. So this is a stacked release here. So you got the 5 disc. So with the 22 episodes, you're not squeezing too many episodes on a disc. They're averaging out to about 5, with like the last disc having 2 episodes. So you get to see all the listings in here.
Nice.
And onto the back, because there's so many. Each episode has multiple stories within it. So most, I think, due to the obvious connection of Rod Serling, kind of compare this against the Twilight Zone, which, while like reasonable, I don't think it's completely fair to pit both series against one another. Twilight Zone is like one of probably the top 10 TV shows of all time. It's like a landmark series, and Night Gallery is a very different beast. It's not always going towards like the same kind of like intellectual type mysteries. There's a lot of like really fun and interesting stories within Night Gallery, and like twisty, and it's entertaining, but I wouldn't put it on the same level as Twilight Zone. But if you like kind of remove Twilight Zone from the equation and just judge it based on what it is, it's a very fun show with a lot of interesting stories. Due to it being like an anthology show with different stories every episode, not every like segment is going to hit it out of the park. Some segments you're like, oh, this is kind of a weaker effort, but then there's like some like all-timer segments within this season where you're like, okay, this is like the show operating at its highest level. So throughout these 22 episodes, there's a lot of greatness, a few like weaker ones, but like this is really good stuff, especially if you're a fan of like what Rod Serling brings to the small screen. And Kino Classics has continued to treat this series with care, because there are so many special features on this. It's insane. Okay, I hand counted these earlier, but I did not realize that this was on the back, so that's my fault. Yes, there are 32 episode commentaries on this.
Wow.
For the 22 episodes. So like each episode, I'm pretty sure gets a commentary track, and then some gets more than one commentary track. And I won't even like attempt to, you can't list all the historians because they bring so many people on. But if you just see like this chunk here of just like all the people that they got, it's insane. Like every episode gets that level of care, which is like basically unheard of. Because can you imagine organizing that many people to come in to like repeatedly go through these episodes? It's wild. And beyond that, it also continues this really interesting kind of documentary that they started on the first release, called the Syndication Conundrum. It's part 2, where it goes into how later in the show's life, they like the networks wanted to put this into syndication, and they kind of just like chopped it up like without any kind of care or anything, and like took parts of one episode and put it with the other, and they just kind of like go and kind of to some of the like business reasons for that and how it kind of screwed up the show creatively and its legacy. So that's a really interesting documentary. There's different kind of small featurettes about the show and the season. There is a featurette on like an art gallery paintings and a bunch of TV spots. So they have really done a great job with this. So Night Gallery season 2, you can see kind of some of the creepy imagery. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So is this the season? So I actually have a prior knowledge of this show.
Okay.
But it's been a little while. I know there's only been 3 seasons of this series. Is this the one with the earwig? Is that season 1? I'm thinking
I
that was this season.
I think it might have been this season. That seems right.
That
So
like Stephen King has, I think, often said that it's like one of the scariest, or like it's something that's kind of stuck with him, and he might have even kind of like worked that into one of his stories even, but like yeah, it's like long story short, it's like this like earwig that you put in someone's like ear, and it like just literally will like eat you from the inside out.
oh yeah.
And like it's like, oh my gosh, the con like, and the actor, I don't recall the actor, but like he sells just how painful that is. And it's like, oh, it gives me the creeps.
Yeah, there are a lot of very unsettling and frightening episodes in this season. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember Vincent Price is in an episode, and I don't recall which. And I think I again, like the seasons blur together, but I know Spielberg did an episode of Night Gallery with Joan Crawford.
that was on this first season, I believe,
Oh,
if
okay,
I'm not
okay.
mistaken. Yeah.
Oh, and also, I will link it in the description, but the season one is on sale right now for like 28 bucks on Amazon. So that's like
Awesome.
crazy good. I'm actually probably gonna pick that up myself. So that's awesome. That sounds amazing. Like it looks really fantastic. Um, um, so I'm going to go for something really classy and awesome to something a little bit more like low rent, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And that's White Elephant.
Okay.
So this, well, we got a nice slipcover here. This is from RLJE. Um, and I hope they don't get mad at me for continuing to be hit or miss with some of their releases. But I don't think it's their fault. I think like the presentation and the quality is always there. Sometimes the movies just aren't. But I actually have to say that this movie has a 14% rating, freshness rating on Rotten Tomato. So that might give you some kind of indication. But I will say that it's not quite as terrible as some other maybe like Bruce Willis, like VOD kind of movies. The plot is really aimless and it's cliched, but it's got a lot of decent action scenes, and I think the cast really, excuse me, I think that the cast really do a great job of really selling this really clunky dialogue they're given. But I will say that if you just kind of like a so bad it's good, um, very unintentionally funny action movie, I liked it for that. It wasn't like so much of a chore that I couldn't just like turn my brain off and enjoy it. So I will say that like I maybe won't watch it again, but if you watch it with like a rowdy crowd and you're having a good time, I think you could do worse. So like it's a lukewarm recommend. I think if you like action movies, um it's not the greatest. It's like not on par with like a John Woo movie or something, but it's decent, and I think like you'll still get some enjoyment out of it. It's just there is just so like there is like some hilariously bad scenes. Like this one, the villain is like ordering this hit, and they're in a restaurant, and he's like yelling this in like this public restaurant to take out this cop. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're like everybody can hear you.
Yeah.
Like he's literally screaming it. And oh man, I'm like, what are you doing? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can tell Bruce Willis is kind of over it. He's like, just give me my paycheck. And um I love like Michael Rooker, John Malkovich. Like again, I don't think anybody's really phoning in their performance here. I know that this isn't like A material or even B material, but I like when at least the actors are kind of committed to it. So Yeah, it's like a if you like these actors, you like some decent action scenes, I think you could do worse.
Yeah, I mean, I love Bruce Willis, but I like it. He had been like doing all these types of movies for years, and then it came out recently, like about his like diagnosis, where like it basically felt like people have been like taking advantage of like his last remaining days of being semi like cognizant and stuff. So just knowing that they were just trying to like pump out all these types of movies, I haven't personally been interested in watching any of them because I just it doesn't sit right with me. But I
Yeah.
can understand that like there's like some kind of value in it. I just personally am not interested in watching any of these.
Yeah, and also like that's kind of why like I didn't want to like say anything bad about Bruce Willis because I know that it's very unfortunate what's going on with him. And as you say, he's been kind of like made to take these kind of subpar roles. And I think he's good in it though. I don't think that he is like terrible. I don't really think there's any horrendously bad performances. I mean, I would say like the core cast does their best. I mean, when you got John Malkovich and Micah Rooker, you're gonna have a good time, even if the material is like, yeah. So
Yeah, I've watched probably much worse movies just to see them in it. So maybe we'll see, I guess.
yeah.
Uh, switching tones dramatically. I'm heading to the land of documentaries, which I love. This is the new Good Deed Entertainment and Kino Lorber release of Alaskan Nets,
Mm.
uh, which is a new documentary that takes place in Alaska, on one like the last native reserve. I will not try attempt to say the name of this reserve because it'd probably be disrespectful because it's like a native name. But the core of the story is it's like this small town where kind of everyone's kind in not the best economic situation. I'll just say this is kind of like a combination of like hoop dreams and almost Friday Night Lights, where the whole town is kind of like so obsessed with this like high school basketball team, and they have been for like decades and decades. They kind of put all of their energy into the success of their basketball team, while at the same time, pretty much the only uh not the only job, but like one of the only like real paths within the town is like going on these like fishing boats that are can often be very dangerous, where people like lose limbs, or they often go diving for some like these precious goods that are like at the bottom of like the ocean that like Eastern like markets like pay top dollar for. So they'll go on these dangerous submersions and like people often die. So it's like this town where people are kind of locked into this way of life where there's not a lot of opportunities, and you see a lot of people burning out and like dying early. But you get to follow these kids that are in high school who are on this basketball team, and just kind of seeing like all the pressure that is like put on them to win a championship because they haven't won a championship in like several decades. Put on their coach, like there's a lot of yelling at the coach type thing and telling him he's garbage, and just like like really extra parents, and also people who don't want to like go to school because they're busy working on their fishing boat, and like they're obsessed with like kind of furthering that point of their life, which might limit their opportunities for like actually getting out and like making something of themselves and being more than just like in that cycle of just like going to school, being a high school star, then being on the boat, having kids, rinse and repeat, basically. So there's like a lot of nuance within this story that I really enjoyed. It's like interesting to see like get invested in these kids' stories and see which way they're going to if they're going to win the championship, if they're going to like fall into their circumstances or try to rise above it and like make it out into like college or anything like that. It's really a touching story. It's a really engrossing story. And I think it was really well done. So yeah, there's not really any special features with this. There's like some trailers, but the documentary itself, like I'm glad it got a Blu-ray release. It looks really nice. It sounds good. It's like as good as you would want just a modern documentary to look. So if the story sounds interesting to you at all, it is a really good documentary. It's Alaskan Nets. Yeah, and it's a good disc.
That sounds really interesting. So, like, it kind of sounds like you really get like invested in these kids, and you get invested in like as you say, like what's going to happen to them, like what like their future is going to be, like not only just in the championship, but like I'm sure they go like in a broader kind of sense of like where they are going to maybe hopefully be someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds really really fascinating. I love stuff like that because it wasn't something that like necessarily I seemed like it would be interesting to me, but like how you describe it, it's kind of gets me excited for it. So
Yay.
yeah. But that's like another thing to the pile, but
Mhm.
looks totally worth it. So my next one is the Gilded Age season 1. And so this has some really nice packaging. So this comes from Warner Brothers and HBO. There's the back. It does have some nice features. Hopefully you can see that. And the inside, it does have an episode list, and like it has like the kind of gatefold discs. And yeah, so have you watched this series yet?
No, I was disappointed it didn't get a Blu-ray release, but I did
Yeah.
want to check it out.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but I will say that this I almost said movie. This show was really hyped as kind of the American Downton Abbey, and I think that's a little bit of a unfair like comparison, but I will say that it definitely has that polish. The production design is incredible. Like the cast is great. I will say the drama for me is a little hit or miss, but they do kind of play up like I don't know if I want to say camp, but there definitely is some like very tongue-in-cheek, some like fancy revenge, which I love. Like give me like a fancy revenge situation. Like with like something like Upstairs, Downstairs and Downton Abbey, like this doesn't really focus so much on like any domestic help. It's mostly just like the upper uh class and stuff. And it's kind of like fun to see like their like it's pure escapism. Like it's I kind of love seeing that like their ridiculous problems being wealthy. So that might be a non-starter for some people, but I think it is a really good show. Like it tries to kind of tackle serious issues in the first season, kind of like such as race and sexism. Um, it's not handled terribly, but I think that it's not really handled the best either. But I think overall it is a good show, and I am excited to watch more of it. So like Nathan Lane is in it, and I love that. So yeah, like that's really all you need to tell me, and I'll watch the crap out of it. That and Fancy Revenge. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, this again, it's like you said, I wish this would have had a Blu-ray release. Maybe eventually it will. Maybe if it runs its course and they do a complete series, maybe we'll do it on Blu-ray. But
Yeah.
um yeah, it still looks really good. I've said this a lot, but like a lot of your modern like up converts, even on like 720p, still looks pretty good on home video, like compared to like streaming. So I still think that there is like a nice I mean, it's not the best, but obviously like it's it's better than nothing really. So
Yeah, and considering there are rumors that HBO Max is like going away, you might just want to own this just for the security of it
yeah.
not disappearing.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about all that. Like I've been hearing a lot of stuff going on, but
Yeah.
supposedly we'll be hearing something tomorrow, but that'll be way into the future when this is actually up and y'all are seeing it. So
Yeah, we'll sound silly now, but
us we're like
at this moment.
yes, we're actually like past people right now, but yeah, but but yeah, it's good. I definitely think so you like stuff like Downton Abbey or like the that kind of okay, so then you probably would like this.
Yeah, I reviewed the new Downton Abbey movie on 4K for the site about a month ago, and
Nice.
yeah, I really like that franchise. So I did really want to watch this because I'm pretty sure it's from the same creator. So
Mhm.
like I said, the only thing holding me back is the lack of Blu-ray release, but I'll probably still have to get it. I just wish it was in high def.
But listen, you have Yellow Jackets on Blu-ray, and that's really all you need in
Yeah,
your
that's
life.
true. That's true.
Uh,
Yeah. I am transitioning over to a two films from 88 Films, which are just have fantastic releases for them. I am talking about Marshall Club and Hero.
mm,
Uh, Not Jet Li's Hero, a couple years earlier, but I'll get to that. So starting off with Marshall Club, I guess it would be easiest just to show off the packaging first. Uh, this stars Gordon Liu, who I am a huge fan of. Uh, so you got the interior here and the reversible cover art, which I'm always glad that these boutique labels do here. So yeah, it's all. I like both versions, so I'm sure I'll keep this outward inside and then have the slip cover to look at. And then there's great like booklets and everything. I don't want to crease my cover art though, so I'm being careful. So you get this booklet here. You get some essays, some great essays and pictures, like you were showing off on Battle of the Worlds earlier. And we got a double-sided poster with,
nice.
yeah. So the main art here and the other art here. So boom. So yeah, this is from the same director as Legendary Weapons of China, which I believe you were the one that covered that a few months ago. But this one, I really like it because it's kind of like a lighter take on like the kung fu martial arts genre, because there's not really an antagonist in the traditional sense. There's not like a greater evil that these people are trying to like fend off. It's more so like a story of like honor and tradition. It starts out with like them like kind of listing off kind of like the rules of like their traditional dances and everything with like the dragons and everything, and like how you're not supposed to do certain movements or to like bring disrespect, or it's like a sign of disrespect. So it's like these two rival kind of like studios who are like beefing, basically, like that one shows disrespect to the other and it kind of just like snowballs into like this thing where the two main like young hot shots basically at both of their studios. They're best friends, but they're at rival studios, and they kind of like are trying to prove their prowess. But in order to try to prove their prowess, they're trying to like stage a fight, which they assume that they have had fixed, like they've paid someone off, but each are paying off the same person. And that person is also confused about the whole situation about it. So it's like kind of like almost like a comedy of errors of like people getting into fights that they think they can win, which they're not properly equipped to win. And like I said, it all boils down to like these two studios battling one another and like the disrespect and all that. So it's really fun and interesting, and like there's really good actual like kung fu sequences if like they do that really well, but it's also light and not too like heavy. This is like loaded with great special features. So there is first off, it comes in both the original Mandarin and an English dub, which I'm not a personal fan of English dubs, but it is an option. It comes with an audio commentary. It comes with several interviews and featurettes, and just like little pieces on like kind of the tenets of like martial arts that they're talking about with some experts, which I always appreciate. Moving on to, I think this was 1996, if I'm not mistaken. Hero, right here, that I will start this off showing off the packaging. So underneath, inside, the
nice.
Yeah, reversible cover art. And just like the other one, this has a booklet and a double-sided poster. I will say this one is not as packed with special features as Martial Club, but it still has some nice features, including an audio commentary, and it has both the Mandarin and English dub as well, and 2.0, and it sounds really nice, and both of these look really nice as well. So you have the booklet here with your essays and pictures and everything, and the double-sided poster. So yeah, this, okay, here. So you have the front here, and try not to have everything go crashing around me. So yeah, this one is interesting because it is actually a remake of The Boxer from Shantung, which was in the Shawscope Volume 1. I believe that was like the second film in that release, which we talked about several months ago. So it was interesting to see that story again, which is basically about a kind of like a peasant, lower class person coming into town and kind of getting mixed up with like kind of the criminal underworld, working his way up, and kind of like all of his like kind of like exploits in that world, and trying to maintain like not being too corrupted while trying to like aspire to a better life, basically. So this one has some like really great action sequences, some really strong acting. I think I might like the original version, like The Boxer from Shantung, a little bit better, but I do think Hero is a really interesting film, especially having like being updated in the 90s. There are some advances in like technology and filming techniques that they really like utilize to the best of their effects. So it's not like the best movie, but I did have a really good time with it and thought it was quite a bit of fun. And there's a really good villain in here. This guy right here, he's pretty like ruthless, and I think he did a really good job. So yeah, like I said, both of these look pretty great. They sound nice. There's like a little bit of age to some of the audio tracks during like the highest like notes with the score, but overall it's pretty solid. And I think anyone who's a fan of either of these movies will really love what 88 Films have done with both of these titles.
Nice. Yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, I mean, you know, with a lot of the Shaw stuff coming out, that's always really exciting to like check out stuff that necessarily again wasn't on my radar, but sounds like it definitely should be. And I guess we're going from one action or a pair of action films to the Green Lantern, Beware My Power, on 4K, and so really nice slipcover, and so this has it's a dual release, a Blu-ray and 4K. This will have a digital copy in it as well. So yeah, I first off kind of just want to say that like I am a huge fan of like how DC does their animated films. Like even when I don't think that they're the most successful, I still like baseline find them pretty watchable. And this is no exception. So I really so I'll talk about the things that I kind of like about this film. So I really like the mature take on the new Grantern, my gosh, Green Lantern, John Stewart. And like in this film, he has PTSD, and he's like going through a lot of like trauma, obviously. And I do kind of like how that is like not shied away from and like folded into the story pretty interestingly. And I do like how they do introduce a lot of really great characters. But the problem with this is if you're not really a huge diehard fan of like the mainline series, the comics, and the DCAU, you might be a little bit lost. Like they give you a little bit of backstory, but like they don't. This is not a primer. Like you really like if you don't kind of know your stuff, you just. I mean, I don't think like I'm not a diehard Green Lantern fan. Like I don't know the lore like maybe like other DC fans, but like I kind of like know it well enough that I could at least follow the story. So I don't think it's too alienating, but it is kind of something to know maybe prior to getting into. They do try to cram a lot into like 90 minutes, and I didn't realize this, but doing a little homework, this actually like tries to fold in a lot of pretty famous comic book storylines into this film. And you know, I mean, I can't really speak to that because I don't really know the comics that well, like I said, but like it you definitely do get the sense that it's cramming a lot in, and the byproduct of that is there's a lot of really interesting characters that I don't think gets fleshed out enough. So that's kind of unfortunate, but again, I still enjoyed watching it. It still was a lot of fun, a lot of great action sequences. The animation is always great. I mean, I sound like a broken record with these, but I do think the animation is like top tier. And you know, this looks great in 4K. I mean, like I think even just like the 1080p pops, but like the 4K is really spectacular. And again, it really shows off this kind of great animation that I think, you know, is kind of like worth having like in 4K. So I do really like how, you know, we're getting this in like the highest quality. I know in a couple months we're going to be getting the complete long Halloween in 4K, and I am so excited for that. I was a big fan of both of those. This actually does have some nice bonus features, and yeah, it's good. It's just it's a little overwhelming, but not in a good way. But overall, I thought it was enjoyable enough.
Yeah, I'm a moderate Green Lantern fan. I haven't been able to check this one out yet, but I will probably have a review up on the site next
Oh,
week. But
nice.
I am excited to check it out.
Yeah, so like you would probably get way more out of this than I did. Like again, I only have like a very basic sort of like understanding of the comics. Like I'm more of like a Batman fan. But yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to this is an interesting title to discuss. It is the MVD marquee release of Highball
Hmm.
from Noah Baumbach, and this is particularly interesting because Noah has disowned this movie, but here it is being released because fans like me still want to watch it. So basically, just to give a little background information as to why this release has been disowned, I reviewed a movie also through MVD last year called Mr. Jealousy, which is the film he put out right before this, and he came in under budget and with that movie, and he had like a little bit of funds left over. So he just decided to get together with some of those cast members and some of his friends and just like kind of like make another really quick movie, which was Highball. Which is it's easy to make that type of movie when the basic premise of this, it takes place over like a year, I believe, and it's like three different parties on specific holidays. There's like a birthday, Halloween, and Christmas that it covers, and it's just like three long stretches of just people like different the same characters pretty much with like a few people rotating out at each party, like just talking to one another and interacting with one another. So it's just people talking for like an hour and 20 minutes, which is, I love that, but I can understand why he might want to distance himself. I don't understand disowning it and like wanting his name taken off of it, but it's not like his best movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's interesting. It has a lot of great people in it. I'll name off. He stars in it himself, along with like Justine Bateman, uh, Dean Cameron, Ray Don Chong, Chris Eggman, Annabelle Sciorra, Ali Sheedy, Eric Stoltz, and I know he was in Mr. Jealousy, but Peter Bogdanovich shows up in this, and it is great because his whole point of his character is just going up to people in parties and asking them a question, and whenever they give a response, he'll tie it back to some like classic cinematic like line, and he'll just start impersonating people. Like someone's like says like their last name is Harvey or something, and he just goes into a Jimmy Stewart talking to Harvey impression, which
Nice.
it just seems like Peter Bogdanovich is probably playing himself, which amuses me. But yeah, some of the characters are annoying, some of the conversations are inane, but I did find it interesting. It's just kind of like, okay, that was like an intriguing look at like a director early in his career trying to find himself when he has a couple extra $1,000 laying around. But it's not like an excellent movie. But I do think it's worthwhile to just put it into context. And also, similar to Mr. Jealousy, where they had like an extremely long documentary that I never would have expected on there, there is a new documentary that runs a whopping 74 minutes
Wow.
about the making of this film, which is like a mixture of like newer interviews and like archival interviews with Baumbach, because he obviously wouldn't want to participate now, but you kind of get like a really great overview of what exactly happened with this movie, which I love that. Like the fact that like a movie that the director could disown also gets a 74-minute like thorough documentary just like tickles me. It's just physical media. It's great. I love it so much. So if you're a Noah Baumbach fan, this is like one of like the missing pieces in his filmography, which are you can finally rectify. And the transfer itself, it's not great, but the film, like whenever they shot it, it was like really like off the cuff. So it's not like a fresh like 4K master or anything, but it's like decent enough for what this is. So I recommend it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I once again haven't heard of that one, but that sounds like it's definitely worth checking out. I'm trying to think if I've seen any of his movies. Like, what's he most known for?
His biggest one, he was Marriage Story was latest. The
Oh,
Meyerowitz
right.
Story, The Squid and the Whale. King of the Hill, the original one. I'm pretty sure it was him.
Not
Um,
the animated.
no, no, no.
Just-
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, cool. I like Marriage Story a lot, so I guess like that's probably his most mainstream thing, but I'll have to maybe do a deep dive.
I'm worried that King of the Hill wasn't him. I'm thinking that maybe have been someone else. So you keep going. I may have done that wrong.
um so yeah, I am kind of saving my last one for like what I think is like the best for last, and that is Baby Assassins. And this
Oh,
is
cool.
from, yeah, this is from Well Go USA. And first of all, like let's just appreciate how cool this cover is. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but that's slightly embossed there. I love stuff like that. And there's no I do love the disc. I wanted to show the disc art. um, so yeah, this was one of these movies that I heard a lot about during its festival run last year. And I was very disappointed to learn that it wasn't about pint-sized assassins. I think that that would have been amazing, but
Yeah.
it is not. But it is a lot of fun. Um, again, sadly, I didn't get to see this during its festival run, but thanks to Well Go USA, I finally got a chance to check it out, and it's really fantastic. The movie really starts out pretty fast and furiously with a really nice action sequence, and um, I think that's kind of like this movie's really interesting because it will have a lot of like big bombastic action, and then it will have just scenes of like the characters like playing on their phone or something. Like yeah, and that's probably gonna like maybe frustrate a lot of people. Like it definitely um likes to have these big set pieces, but then also like it will kind of revel in this like almost painfully mundane kind of like aspect of it, which I think is actually pretty funny because these are two assassins, but their life pretty much is so like boring outside of just doing jobs and everything. Like it's almost like satirical in that way, and I thought that was pretty clever. So yeah, I will say that as much as I like this movie, if I had to complain, I would say that the world building is a bit lacking here. Like I've used example before, but I think like John Wick's kind of a perfect example of how you can take a very by the numbers revenge action film, but elevate it with excellent world building. And this one doesn't quite kind of, it's a little bit lacking in that department. And there are like important aspects of the plot that I also feel kind of get glossed over. And I would say, like, even though I kind of like what they're trying to do with some of the more slower pace scenes, I still think it could have been maybe tightened up a little bit. Um, Either that or like really go hard on that kind of like that satirical angle. But it really doesn't like hit it quite that hard. And I was a little bit disappointed that this didn't have any features. It's just a film. Having said that, it looks great. It is like pretty excellent. It's not perfect, but it's really fun. I'm glad that it did get a physical media release because again, it already kind of has established a little bit of a cult following, and I totally understand that. It's just not quite as good as I think it could have been.
Well, I mean, the way you described it, I still want to see it, but I guess I'll have my
Yeah.
expectations in check to like not expect like killer babies. So
Yeah, and it is still a good movie. I just think that you can see like I'm sure you've seen this a lot where you can see like potential that just feels wasted or there's like almost what could have been like really great satirical like take on the action genre. And it's like a little bit there, but like it just needs to be pushed a little further. But it's still worth checking out.
Awesome. I mean, I probably will check it out. Like I check everything out, even if it scars me. And then I anyway. I want to say I correct myself. King of the Hill is Steven Soderbergh. I knew I was getting it wrong as soon as I said it. That has a Criterion release. I'm pretty sure. Once again, I'm not fact checking this. I'm pretty sure what it was is because I was like, was it Slacker? And I'm like, no, that's the other one. Who did Before Sunrise? Richard Linklater, who I think Noah Baumbach's first film. And the reason I knew I was wrong about King of the Hill is because it's gotten a Blu-ray release. I believe Baumbach's first film is Kicking and Screaming, which I'm still waiting for it to get a Blu-ray release. It's DVD only. So that's me correcting myself. King of the Hill, not animated, is Steven Soderbergh. Don't come at me. All of this stuff is like off the top of my head, except for like these like random notes I scribble down. So if I get things wrong from time to time,
you have much better handwriting than I do.
That's shocking because mine is terrible. So you must just be like illegible apparently.
Like I just basically yeah, I mean that's what should have been my calling, I think.
But you're so good at talking about movies, so the world would be lost. I'm gonna round this out with two Kino titles. So yeah, I have this film. I believe it's from 2004. I believe I cannot confirm that. It is a Lou Diamond Phillips film, El Cortez, which is like a neo noir that I had never heard of. In this film, Lou Diamond Phillips, he almost plays kind of like autistic-y, like he might be on the spectrum a little bit, but it's like subtle. He's a criminal who is freshly out of like the psychiatric ward, or like a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. He had committed a murder like several years back. He's been rehabilitated and now he's back into the world. And he is working at a motel as kind of like a front desk person, and it's kind of like a seedy motel where like prostitutes bring men to like conduct their business and just different stuff like that. So it's just kind of like a bunch of unsavory individuals. What this basically turns into is kind of like your standard like guy gets involved with a girl who she's in the business, but he thinks he can kind of like be her boyfriend and stuff, like a legit like form of a legit relationship, while also his employer is like a guy with like with a gold mine. Like he's like he owns a gold mine that he's trying to get people like to invest in. So it's like kind of like this weird like kind of criminal underworld of like scamming people and like trying to like a little bit of a romance, a little bit like just general twisty criminal noir stuff. It's not great. There are some elements, especially like I said with Lou Diamond Phillips' character, which you're like, I'm not sure if this is being handled the most sensitively. Even though they don't like flat out say like he is on the spectrum, like it's kind of but it is an interesting movie, and there's like some nice character dynamics with this, like between like Lou Diamond Phillips and the woman of his affection, played by Tracy Middendorf. She does a really good job. I've seen her in like little bit parts here and there, mostly on television. But mostly I got this because I do like Lou Diamond Phillips, and I like to like just explore his work. And like he does a really good job. It's just the way he is written is not always the most clear or palatable. But overall, I think it's, if you're like, especially if you're like into like modern noirs, I think it's worth it. But it's not like, it never gets too insane or tawdry or anything. It's just, it's decent. So
Yeah.
El Cortez, that's like the name of the hotel, like the El Cortez, and it's okay. It's okay. Finally, I think this would be much more up your alley. It is a TV horror movie, High Desert Kill, from Kino and Scorpion Releasing, which this cover art, it's really cool. It's very also misleading, but it is what it is. There are things which I will not spoil in this because it takes some interesting turns. I will just say, basic premise is there's a group of guys. There's a young guy who has recently lost his uncle. And like two of his like army buddies are taking this young kid out, or young, he's like 22, to kind of like recreate this like trip that they would take every year, like a hunting trip out into like the desert. And on this trip, strange things start happening, and they start seeing like different visions. All of the animals in the area have like suddenly just like ceased to like be around, and just like certain like visions start appearing to them that are, they're not quite sure what to make of it, and things just aren't quite as they seem while they are out there. What is happening? You'll have to watch the film to find out. I will say, for like a made for TV horror film, it's pretty like well done. Like some of them can look really cheap and cheesy, and as far as this one goes, I think they did a really good job with like the like special effects, creating a nice like cinematography. Like it's a well shot film, and kind of like the more like sci-fi aspects, I think is like handled well, especially for this period. In 1989 is when this came out. There's not like a ton of like hugely memorable people in this, but I will say this has Mark Singer, who I know from the V miniseries. I know he's also in Beastmaster. He's playing like a real like keyed up like tough guy, basically. It's really amusing. And this has Chuck Connors in it, who's like always very like a memorable presence. And I will just have to say, this isn't a spoiler, there is like a like small dance sequence in this movie that is one of the most like what the fuck type sequences like in these type of movies I have seen. Just like the dancing, like the quality of the dancing and the circumstances of like, why are you dancing with your shirt off? This is weird. So if you like to see hunky guys dancing in the desert with their shirts off, that's another selling point. And like, I wouldn't even spoil it, but like Chuck Connors, I'll just say he gets into some interesting situations.
Nice.
Anyway, this comes from a new 2K master, and this does what I love that certain TV movies do. This one includes both the original 1.33 by 1 television aspect ratio and the 1.78 by 1 theatrical ratio. So you can choose which way you want to view this. Both look like the same quality wise. There's still some like age related wear and like some like nicks of damage here and there, but overall the 2K master spruced it up really nicely. Other than that, you're just left with like some trailers. But overall, if you're a fan of TV movies, I know you are, High Desert Kill is quite a bit of fun. I think it's really interesting. I would also, never mind, I was going to compare it to a movie, but I think that might spoil stuff, but I think you would like it.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I definitely am all about the cheesy TV movies,
Yeah.
especially horror and sci-fi. So yeah, I'm all about that. Yeah, that sounds amazing. That's kind of a great sort of title to kind of cap off the episode. But before we do that, tell our fine folks about the giveaway again.
Yes, like I said, Lightyear Entertainment has given us 3 Blu-ray copies of Yellow Brick Road, the new psychological horror film that is celebrating its 10th anniversary, newly remastered in 2K. And all you have to do to win one of 3 copies is to just tell us which of the titles that we spoke about are you most excited to check out. Is it High Desert Kill? Who knows? Is it Baby Assassins? I don't know. You tell us. What are you interested in? And you could win one of 3 copies from us. Just let us know in the comments.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, and with that, I'll do the obligatory like, subscribe, again, comment this time to win that really cool Blu-ray. And just thanks for hanging out with us.